Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective, where today we are going to be doing a part 2 to last week's video where we basically go through each season of Drag Race and talk about who is most likely to come back for an All-Stars. Now, we went through the main 16 seasons of the show, but now we're going to look at the seasons of All-Stars and see who are we going to see come back for a third time, or a fourth time, or God forbid, a fifth fucking time. We just got revealed the cast of Canada versus the World Season 2, and it is mostly people we have seen now 3 times. I think if you're looking at the cast, only 4 of the 9 contestants have been on only one time. Everyone else, this is their 3rd time or their 4th time in Eureka and Alexis, when previously there was only one ever, Jujubee. So we're seeing a shift in All-Stars where they want to rely on certain queens to bring an audience in. I think especially for these Versus the World seasons that are on WoW Presents, they're not necessarily airing on Paramount or on MTV. They need to have a bigger pull to make people want to download WoW or go to an app where they literally only watch one show on it. So having queens like Eureka and Lemon and Cheryl and Alexis and Kennedy, who are coming in with huge fan bases because they've already been on the show multiple times, it makes sense that this would be the type of cast that they would want. So we're going to go through all of the All-Star casts, the UK versus the world, the Canada versus the world, and we're going to see who are the likeliest queens to come back again. So let's start out with All-Stars, and I'll try and talk about each queen with their most recent appearance, but I kind of forgot about that for some people, so we'll talk about people when they come up. But for right now, we're going to talk about 4 queens from All-Stars 1 who have yet to come back since then, and that is Mimi I'm First, Tammy Brown, Nina Flowers, and Raven. And I honestly don't see a huge opportunity for any of them to come back. I don't think the likelihood is very high. Mimi I'm First, she just is so far removed from Drag Race at this point. I think she's even pretty far removed from social media. Almost all of her posts now are her out of drag, and she had an out of drag glow up. We'll just say that. If you ever want to know the type of man that I tend to go for, it's Mimi I'm First out of drag. And you're going to be like, what the fuck? But if you go to her profile, you'll understand what I'm saying. Yeah, she's mostly just out of drag with some what looks like AI generated imagery and some throwbacks. So, I know that she's had some issues with her mental health in the past. So honestly, I just hope that Mimi is doing well mentally. She's in a better place than she was a couple years ago. And I don't think throwing herself onto, the biggest drag platform in the world is necessarily the best thing to keep that mental health, well. So I don't think we're going to see Mimi I'm First back. Tammy Brown is someone who I think a lot of people would want to see back, but I just don't think that they would want to throw their eggs in Tammy's basket, because Tammy is not one of those queens that is willing to play ball. Tammy is going to do what Tammy wants to do. She isn't about, well, for this challenge, we really want you to do this. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. Or hey, maybe you could bring up to this person. No, she's not playing the games. She doesn't care. I think I would love to see Tammy in, a Christmas special, the Holislay, or even, bring her on as a cameo for a challenge or something like that. They brought back Vivacious at points. I think that would be a great way to bring Tammy back to the show and let people fall in love with her again without necessarily having her commit to an entire season. Because unfortunately, I just don't think Tammy ever will be the type of queen that will succeed on Drag Race. Not every type of performer, not every type of drag artist is fit for Drag Race, and I feel like Tammy is that type of queen. She will not fit the mold, which is good on her, but I think that she knows that. I think the show knows that. And unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to see her come back. She's also said a lot of negative stuff about the show, which we've seen isn't a full TKO, you're never coming back, but it also is not helping her chances either. So next we have Nina Flowers, who isn't necessarily a drag performer, it seems, anymore, but she does DJ in drag. And I truly think that Nina is so far ahead of the curve when it comes to Drag Race. I feel like we saw her on season 1 doing things that we didn't see on Drag Race for years later. And, she ended up being runner-up. She was the Miss Congeniality. She came back on All Stars 1 and was teamed up with Tammy, and unfortunately that was kind of like the the death knell, because like I said, Tammy cannot commit to what they need her to do for the show, and I think that kind of hindered Nina a bit. And we have not seen her on since, and we haven't seen her in any capacity outside of the season 10 finale where all of the season 1 girls came on in drag. So she's not someone who they're bringing on as a cameo or they're referencing, which isn't like good for her chances. And the fact that she's not actively touring a bunch, doing drag performance is also not good for her chances. But she's one of those queens where I just always want to hold out hope that she will be back, because I would love to see her drag on the main stage in 2024, 2025, and see how much she's grown and kind of just like throw her hat back in the ring a little bit. Maybe that's not something she's interested in. I couldn't find any kind of indicator whether she said yes, she would, or no, she wouldn't. So she's someone I want to see back, but I think for right now, I don't see it as very likely. And then lastly, we have Raven, our 2-time runner-up from Season 2 and All-Stars 1, who now is, like, the ultimate cameo queen. She, like, makes at least one appearance on every single season because she's RuPaul's makeup artist, and she's just always on set. And I feel like, kind of like with Delta Work, it is a bit of conflict of interest to have her competing when she like knows how everything works behind. I mean, maybe she doesn't know everything, but she sees a lot, I'm sure, in the dressing rooms and behind the scenes. But she is one of RuPaul's favorite queens of all time, and she is kind of like a legend of Drag Race. So there always is just that slight possibility of like, if they do a Legends, I can see them really wanting Raven to be there. So that's why I have her a little bit higher, but I still don't think her chances are like humongous to get on. Now let's move on to All Stars 2, which currently has a queen that is about to be announced anytime now, or maybe it'll keep making us wait like 4 more months, with Alyssa Edwards, who is on Global All Stars. So it's good to know that there's still like an interest of queens from this era of the show. I feel like there's a lot of queens I would love to see get a third shot, because I do feel like there are so many that got screwed from the twists, more than anybody. Coco Montrese, who had to change her talent show the very last second, and, that kind of screwed her, and she went home first. She is, at Drag Race Live and the Vegas review show, so, like, they obviously love Coco enough to, like, have her with the brand. She's on the payroll, so I would love to see her get another chance. And I feel like of the people on this season, she's one of the ones that would be more likely. I think now that Detox has said she would come back, I could see her coming back. She's another one where if they do a Legends, Detox is there. But you could also have her on like a non-elimination season if you wanted. Right in the middle, I have Adore Delano, because kind of like Laganja, I feel like my hope of her coming back is like enlightened and then like diminished immediately, back and forth every single time there's an All-Stars, because she's like, oh my gosh, I would do it. Oh my gosh, I was in talks to do it. I turned it down, or I was cut, or I wouldn't do this. And there's always like a reason why she's not there, but it always seems like the possibility is open. We know that she was almost on All-Star 6, but they would not allow her to do the talent show that she wanted to do. And then she was in talks, I think, to be on 8. But then this past season, it doesn't seem like she was even really in contention. But also, she's going through her gender transition at the moment, so maybe she wants to focus on that. I don't know. She's one who is so famous and so popular due to the show that I just can't imagine them never having her back on. So it is kind of a 50-50 for me, but there is always that hope. Like, I feel like something always falls through, but one time there's like bound to be like the planets aligned, the stars are aligned, and she's able to come on. So I could see Adore coming back, but I'm assuming now she might be focusing on her gender transition, so it might be a little bit longer. And then Tatiana is another one who's like always rumored, and then she gets debunked. And I don't know. I feel like with Tatiana, if they really wanted her back and she wanted to come back, I feel like she would come back already. She's one of the most like beloved queens of the franchise. People have wanted her back so much. She is always on the wish lists for All Stars. So the fact that it hasn't happened yet is a bit concerning. She also isn't as active on socials as she used to be, and that's something that they obviously love, that for queens to be, all over the socials. So I don't know. I feel like Tatiana's moment might have passed. I feel like All Stars 6, maybe even 8 would have been like a really good moment. But I'm just hoping that like we haven't all like moved on from this, because I would just love Tatiana to come back. I'm just not sure that it's in the cards right now. And then we have two queens who will just never come back. The artist formerly known as Fifi O'Hara, Jeremy Carey, I think he pulls Fifi out every now and again, but he's doing a lot more cosplay and Twitch streaming and things like that. And it just seems like this is a much better place for him to be, a much less toxic environment. And just looking at this photo, Fifi's All Stars 2 promo look is everything to me. I love it so much. And then Katya, I mean, obviously she's gone through a lot in these last couple of years. She has said how, like, competition environments are not great for her. She would never put herself through that again. So I think we're probably going to get a lot of cameos from Katya throughout the years, but I don't think we're going to have her competing. Then we have All Stars 3, one of the best casts of All Stars, in my opinion. I would love to just bring this cast entirely back, and let's redo the whole thing. Aja is most likely on All Stars 10, which makes me very happy because I have been clamoring for her to come back for years now. Morgan was definitely in the conversations for All Stars 10, and I feel like she's like kind of like Mayhem. Like, she's right there in LA. She's an LA staple. She's gonna make good TV. If they ever have like a spot open, I feel like she is an easy one to call. They had her be a lipstick assassin on the first opportunity, the first season that they had it. So I feel like that she has a good relationship with WoW. She's done fashion photo review. And if there's ever like a moment where it fits, I feel like she will be on. Then we have Thorgy, who is another one like Tatiana, where like everybody collectively wants her back. Everybody. But the fact that it still hasn't happened is concerning a little bit. She was on the pit stop this week. She's kind of become like a very frequent pit stop guest. If she's on like once almost every season. I think her doing Bob's review show was a huge thing. The first impressions was a huge thing for her career. And that was just like a really great moment for her to be like consistently on people's YouTubes every single week. I would love for her to just start her own show. I feel like that would be amazing for her because she is so good at reviewing, but also like shitposting her way through it. I would love Thorgy. I feel like she has unfinished business. But she did kind of mention in this pit stop episode that she's not a great contestant because she kind of goes a little wacky when she competes. So maybe that is something that is on her mind. Maybe she has been asked and has turned it down. I'm not sure. She is just like so wanted by the fandom as like an All-Stars contestant that I feel like at some point WoW is gonna be like, hey, let's try and make this work. And then we have BenDeLaCreme, who I have like right in the middle. She's talked about how she would come back. I think if there's a Legend season, Ben will be on it. If there's not a Legend season, I don't see Ben returning. That's kind of where I see it. I feel like she has proven that she is some of the best ever to compete. And I don't think that she would compete with, no shade, but like an All-Stars 8 cast. Like, I just don't think that fits for her. I don't think she would want that. I don't think the audience would want that either. I think in order for her to come back, you have to have a stacked cast. So something like Legends, I would love. And then we have Milk, who, I've been, the Milk defense attorney for years now. She hasn't been a pit stop guest, but she did do an Out of the Closet episode, which, shows at least there's some relationship between her and WoW. I think she would be a great pit stop guest, so I think they should have her on that for sure. But I don't know, Milk is just someone who's always going to be booked. She's always going to be around doing her thing. And I love her so much. I love her drag so much. I would love to see what she would do on the show in 2025. But I'm just not sure there's interest from production, unfortunately. And, her career did take a hit after All Stars 3. So I could see hesitance on her side, too, for not wanting to return. So I don't think it's likely, but, like, it's something that I would want. Like, very, very much. Okay, now we have All Stars 4. Let's start off with the back half. Pheromone, she's obviously gone through a lot. I think that, like, Maddie interview was, like, a huge moment for her to kind of reintroduce herself to the fandom after taking some time away from social media. I think that she would need to, like, reestablish her career, like, touring-wise. And I think she would also need to forgive the show for what they did to her on All Stars 4. And I don't think she's willing to do that yet. I think that it's kind of like the Nina Bonina and Shea Coulee thing, where like if Valentina said no to All Stars 4, I don't think Pheromone would have been there. And I don't know if she would have been cast afterwards either. I think that she knows that she was cast for a storyline. She played the purpose that production wanted it to, and they cast her aside. And if I were her, I wouldn't really want to come back either. So I don't see it right now at all, really. But maybe in the future. I mean, she is really well liked by the fandom. And she's gone through also a gender transition, so it'd be nice to see kind of where she's at now, competition wise. Gia Gunn, unless they do an all villain season, I don't see her coming back. She's just had way too much negative stuff to say about the show and RuPaul specifically. And then you have Jasmine Masters, who like I feel like she's perfect for like the Christmas holidays. Like that's perfect for her. I think on a regular season, she kind of just like Idge Bowls on a season. You know what I mean? Like season 7, she threatened to quit, and they were like, no. And then All Stars 4, she like didn't even prep her talent show. I just feel like Drag Race is not where Jasmine Masters shines. And I feel like production knows that now, and I feel like Jasmine probably knows that as well. But she is such a meme queen. They do need to fill a spot. Like, I could see them giving her a call. She's in LA anyway. Latrice, I feel like We're Here is Latrice's, like, place. Like, I feel like that is where Latrice belongs. You know, she was done so dirty on All Stars 4 with the edit. I think it did kind of tarnish her career for a little bit. She's been able to bounce back, but I just don't know if she would be willing to, like, go through that again and potentially be, like, portrayed as a villain again. Like, I don't know. I feel like she doesn't do the pit stop really. Like, she doesn't really do a bunch of stuff with WoW for how famous she is and how, like, she amplified Drag Race so much on season 4, like with just her presence. So I don't know if the relationship is bad per se, but like the fact that she's not doing up all the press stuff for Drag Race and the pit stops and all of these things, I just don't see it really. Valentina, she's kind of in a weird position now because she was let go or quit from Drag Race Mexico. So if she wanted to kind of re-establish herself, going on an All-Stars would be a good idea. But I low-key think she should go on like a tour. I think she should do like a Latin America tour that then she does like a second leg in North America. Maybe she does some like a third mini leg in Europe. Like I feel like she's big enough where she could do a tour, a theater tour, release some music, and you know, I feel like that's where maybe her career could go from here rather than going on like an All-Stars again. Because I also think that when you host a franchise, it kind of puts you in a weird position when you're like, oh, I'll just go back to All-Stars. And that's kind of where Manila is at, too. Like, Manila's not hosting a Drag Race show, but she's hosting a different drag program. And I feel like that might make things weird if she were ever to return to Drag Race. But she is so beloved by production, by the fans, by Rue, that again, if they do a Legend season, I think that Manila would be on it. And I also think that Mo Hart would be on it. You know, she has her Amazon Prime show. Her drag has evolved so much. We kind of saw the middle point of that on UK versus the World, but it's evolved even so much since then. So she's obviously beloved by production. If they do a Legends or even like a Hollisley kind of thing, I feel like Mo is one of those people that will probably always get a call from Drag Race. The person who I see the most, though, is Naomi. I feel like she is a perennial pit stop guest. She's on all the podcasts. She now is all over YouTube. She has said she would do it. So she's, you know, been on all the tours, the Vegas Review, the Work the World. She has a great relationship with WoW, and she has such a huge fan base that I feel like she's someone that they would probably want to come back. And now that she's shown interest and she's kind of died down from the touring schedule that she was on for like low-key like 6 or 7 years, I feel like this would be a good moment for her. Like All Stars 11 could be a really good moment for Naomi. Now we have All Stars 5. India Farah, I think that was her moment. You know, she was kind of like the shock casting. She won the first challenge, and it was kind of a little bit downhill after there. But I do think this season would have been extremely boring if India wasn't on it, and I do appreciate that she was there for that. I just think that was her moment. You know what I mean? Mayhem is weird because obviously she's my favorite queen of all time. I'm joking, she's not. But I do love her. She has been called for almost everything she could possibly be called for with Drag Race. She was in The Bitch Who Stole Christmas. She was in the Hollis Lay Spectacular. She's on The Pit Stop. She was a lip sync assassin. She got called for UK versus the World 2. She's been on Fashion Photo Review. Like, she is obviously so easy to work with that they call her whenever they need somebody. So, like, I think that she's done competing after UK versus the World 2, but I think we'll see Mayhem Miller on Drag Race, just like, other things, probably for a very long time. Then we have Mariah and Blair, who I would love to see back. I just don't think that Drag Race is necessarily where they're going to, like, succeed the most. Like, I feel like Blair started All Stars 5 so strong and then just kind of fizzled. And I think she's focused more on, like, her hair brand now. I think she has a salon. I think she owns a salon now. So I think she kind of took a step away from drag. And I feel like her getting to top 4 on All Stars 5 was kind of like not the best she could ask for, but just like that was like the best case scenario for her on All Stars 5. So unless she's like evolved even more, I don't know if she has a reason to go back. And same with Mariah. I feel like Mariah she does so much outside of the show, but it just doesn't translate. And they also don't really seem to care about her, since she clearly should have won episode 1 with her talent show. So, yeah, I'd be shocked if either of them came back. Ongina, if I were Ongina, I would be scared to come back, because people were begging for me for years, and then you go on and it's not great. But maybe that was like the Tony Vlachos. Maybe that's her game changer season. And if she came back for like a Winners at War, it would be like another huge moment. Jujubee is another one kind of like Mayhem, where I feel like they're always just going to call her for shit. I don't know if she would compete again unless it was a Legend season, but I think if there was a Legend season, they would call her immediately. Because I do think she somewhat needs a redemption from UK versus the World 1. I feel like if her storyline ended at All Stars 5, then there's no need to call her. She annihilated a season. But because her UK versus the World was a little... I feel like there's more places for her storyline to go and her to come back and slay again like she did in All Stars 5. Then we have Ms. Cracker, who's like kind of off and on these All Stars 10 lists. I think that she had a very weird trajectory where she was a humongous fan favorite on season 10, came back, was winning the most challenges on All Stars 5, had the best track record, but had almost zero winning contention because the fans just did not vibe with her on All Stars 5. She definitely, I think, was in a weird headspace. I feel like she put a lot of pressure on herself being a fan favorite. It's such a weird thing that happened to her. Like, the whiplash of being fan favorite to literally did the best on the season, but no one wanted her to win. It was just really insane to watch. So if she does come back, I would low-key be okay with that, despite her being a finalist, despite her, slaying just, a couple seasons ago. Well, I guess it's like 5 seasons ago now, but I feel like this was like a weird middle moment of her story, and she needs to come back and show kind of who she really is, because I don't think we got that on All Stars 5. I think she was way too focused on the competition. And then we have Derek Barry, who is also a little tiny bit in contention for All Stars 10, and is someone else who has a great relationship with WoW. She's been on, so many seasons as a guest star. She was just on season 16 doing the MTV Spring Break talent show stuff. So she's someone who has a great relationship. I think she has a storyline that's not finished, being first out, which, they rigged this show so much. They could have easily rigged it that Derek would have stayed, and I don't think any of us would have cared. Not a single one of us would have cared if Derek was low instead of bottom 2 in that premiere, because you just know that season would have been about 10 times better, even if she lasted just one more episode. So I want Derek back. I think the show would want Derek back, and I think Derek would also do it. So I feel like if it's not this season, I feel like it will happen in the future. I would love... What if they did a Drag Race All-Stars with just the Vegas girls? That would be so cool, because there's so much history there. They've worked together for years, and now they're... they should do that. Great cross-promotion. They should do that. Okay, All-Star 6. So now we're getting into seasons that are not that old. This was 2021. So, there just hasn't been as much history between then and now as with these other seasons. Serena Cha-Cha, I think this was her, moment to shine, and she had a great lip sync to Free Your Mind by En Vogue. Jiggly Caliente, I think, is better fitted to be a judge on Philippines than to be a contestant. Pandora Box, another kind of like Cracker situation, more of a Milk, somewhere in between Ms. Cracker and Milk, where they were a huge fan favorite. She was the original fan favorite of the show. Came back on All Stars 1, went home first, kind of had a bad attitude about the whole thing. Came back for All Stars 6, and kind of just, if there was a purple edit on Drag Race, she got it, because she was not in the episodes. She was just middle of the road the entire season, then kind of just flamed out at the end with a really bad Snatch Game, a really bad Girl Groups verse. And I think since has just kind of like, I don't want to say disappeared. She's just not in the Drag Race vernacular that as much as she used to be. You know, like Pandora Box, I would expect to be on Pit Stop and doing all these things for Drag Race. She's Pandora fucking Box, but she's not. And I feel like it's because she had such a lukewarm reception on All Star 6 and kind of just, I don't want to say squandered, but just like lost a lot of momentum with the fandom. So I think that low-key I would want to see her back. I think that she needs kind of a little bit of a redemption, but I just don't think that the fans are clamoring for it, and I don't think WoW is necessarily clamoring for it anyway. If she was on things like the Pit Stop, then I would be like, okay, there's still an interest, but it's been radio silence from her since, so I just don't see it currently. Yara Sofia, weird edit on All Star 6 that I think kind of like Milk. Like, I think tarnished her reputation a little bit with the fandom. She also had a win that was heavily contested. So I think this season was like a net negative for her. So I think there is room for her to improve if she were to return. But again, I just think that unless it's like an All-Stars Legends, I just think that maybe there's other people that they would choose over Yara. Obviously, Alexis Mateo got the call for Canada versus the World. And I feel like people like Alexis, they're just more inclined to bring back than Yara at this point. Ginger is like low-key in contention for All Stars 10. I don't know what's going on there. She's always just going to be doing a lot of stuff. She was just on Chopped. My mom texted me and was like, Ginger Minj is on Chopped! And Ginger Minj is one of my mother's favorites, so that was probably a very fun moment for her. Ginger's just always going to be touring and doing shit, and she's obviously very reliable, very professional. So if they want to have her back 30 times, I feel like I could understand why they would. Then there's, I think, 3 queens who are perfect for a Canada versus the World, for a Global All-Stars, for a UK versus the World, and that is A'keria, Chanel Davenport, Jan, and Trinity. Because all 3 of these queens, I feel like their stories from All-Star 6 are not over. And that is why you would want to bring someone back for a 3rd time. It's because there's unfinished business, or some kind of resolved narrative arc. Trinity, was eating up the entire season, got cut last second because Eureka got brought back, and then won the following challenge. She's perfect for, she's kind of like an Alexis Mateo. Alexis Mateo has the same kind of story arc on All-Stars 5 that Trinity did. And I feel like she was supposed to be on Canada versus the World, or at least she got the call for Canada versus the World 1, but either turned it down or got cut or, something happened. So there's obviously still interest for Trinity to come back on. Then we have Jan, who I feel like this was like the middle section of her villain arc. This was like seeing her crack like over and over and over again. And I feel like if you bring Jan back one more time, she's 30 now. I feel like her drag is just constantly evolving. I think you bring her back, you have her be judged by Brooke, and I feel like she makes it to the end, and she probably doesn't win, but I feel like that would be enough validation and like redemption for her. Kind of like Scarlet Envy on UK versus the World 2. Like, I don't think Scarlet needed to win that season to get the redemption. Just winning a challenge, making it close to the end. Like, that was all she really needed for that storyline. And I feel like that could be kind of Jan's arc. I feel like losing finalist is all we need to, like, complete Jan's arc. Having her understand what the judges want from her, being true to herself, and making it to the end. I feel like that's all she needs. And then A'keria, who is, like, I'm constantly reposting things of A'keria on Twitter, on my Instagram story, because no one does drag like A'keria. Nobody is on the level of drag that A'keria is at. And I will say that till my dying breath. Her drag is so next level. It is like, ugh. If you are not following A'keria, listen, does she have the squeakiest clean, social medias out there? No. But when she posts a look, my jaw drops every single time. So everybody go follow Akira. I feel like she was treated so fucking poorly on All Star 6. It is sickening. And I would love to see her back. And I feel like, it's a Versus the World or something is perfect for her. Okay, now we are at All Stars 8. This one is only a year old, so I'm going to kind of blow past a lot of these. Naysha, I don't think she's coming back. I think that was her moment. She's had a lot of shit to say about the show since she was back on again. I think it's done. Same with Monica. I feel like she's one of those queens like Serena, where it's like, here's your shot for redemption. Oh, there's no redemption. Okay, that's enough. Like, I don't think they're bringing her back. Mrs. Kasha Davis, they didn't give a shit about her while she was there. I don't know why they would bring her back again. Kahana, I feel like showed what Kahana can do on an All-Stars. And I feel like that was, for now, I think we're good. I think I would love to see her, continue on the Vegas show and tour and all of that. But I think she still needs to grow just a little tiny bit. Not in necessarily her drag. Her drag is obviously next level. But in her confidence in areas she's maybe not like a pro in. I would love to see her kind of hone some more skills there. And then maybe come back for a third time. Maybe 3 or 4 years from now. Alexis Michelle, I don't foresee coming back because I feel like that was the natural conclusion of her storyline that started on season 9. There's a little bit of the delusion. There's a little bit of her, thinking that she's a mastermind and getting absolutely owned at the end of the season, but doing better than she did the first time and making it further and showing that she is a very, very talented drag artist who's going to bring a lot of camp and fun and drama to a season. And I feel like that is what we got from Alexis Michelle on All Stars 8 is everything I could have asked from her, and I am completely at peace with everything we've seen from her, and wish her nothing but the best. If she comes to Cleveland, I would see her. And low-key, without her, I think without Alexis and without Candy, All Stars 8 is a 0 out of 10. Those are the two people that truly brought it to the next level. LaLa Ri as well, but mostly Candy and Alexis. James Mansfield, I do feel like her time on All Stars 8 was cut short, only because if she did not get cut where she got cut, I think she makes top 3. But it's one of those things where, like, it's a coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I do think there still is more she could show. But I do think as a first out that got back and made it halfway, I just don't know if they would, put their coins in her purse, put their apples in her basket, put their carrots in her... I don't know what the phrase I'm trying to come up with is, but you know what eggs! Eggs in her carton! Put the eggs in basket. Eggs in her... I like eggs in her carton better. We're going to stick with her eggs in her carton. Darian Lake, if there is a UK versus the world, Canada versus the world, she's perfect for it, because she also was very mistreated on this season. I don't think she deserved half of her bottom placements. And after years and years and years of hoping for Darian to come back, for that to be how they treated her, and for her run to have gone, it makes me sick to my stomach. Candy is reality TV gold. I low-key would want Candy Muse on Big Brother immediately. Courtney did it in the UK. I want Candy Muse on Big Brother 27. But also, she is such a superstar that I think that there's always going to be at least a little bit of, well, we could bring her back for this too. Just because it's going to be a slam dunk and she's going to add so much to a season. But the 3 who I think are really for sure coming back, and I have them all pretty much towards the yes, because I think all 3 of them we will see again, are LaLa Ri, Heidi N Closet, and Jessica Wilde. Jessica Wilde fits the UK versus the world, Canada versus the world bill perfectly. Made it close to the end of a season, got snipped last second, could have won if she made it there. She will be on something because she is now on the pit stop and doing all this stuff. She is so beloved by the fandom. She will be back. Heidi N Closet obviously quit on the season. She has said she would go again to an All-Stars, that this was just really bad timing. And I think the show, I don't think there's any hard feelings from the show. I think they would bring her back. And LaLa Ri was the fan favorite. She won the Fame Games, and I think that she is like one of those burgeoning stars. I feel like you bring her back one more time, and she will be a legend of the show. So that is All Stars 8. Now we only have a couple more seasons to talk about. The UK versus the Worlds, and the Canada versus the Worlds. So let's do Canada versus the World 1. We're not going to talk about 2 because it's literally like not even out yet. Who has no chance? I think Stephanie Prince. She's another one of those early outs who became an early out again, and I think that that was her moment to prove that she could, slay a competition. She didn't, and I think we're moving on. But I do love her. Anita Wiglet, Global All Stars, maybe. She was such a star on Down Under, but was so mistreated. Then came back to Canada versus the World and just bottomed for the first 3 episodes. So I think that definitely kind of hurts her chances, but I do feel like there is more story for her to have in another season. So I don't think it's very likely right now, but I think in the future, potentially. Rita Baga, I don't know what's going on with Drag Race Belgique. I don't think she was really liked as a host. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't really feel one way or the other about Rita Baga, if I'm completely honest. I know there's people that love her. There's people that really don't like her. I have no opinion. But I feel like they keep trying to make Rita Baga work. They were really pushing her on Canada 1. She was, I don't want to say pushed, but, she maybe had one win that was a little bit on this season. Then she was given her own show, and people thought she wasn't great as a host. I feel like eventually they're going to be like, how much are we going to try and make Rita Baga happen before we realize, I don't know if Rita Baga is going to happen. Which is a really shady thing to say, but, she just has not become, beloved by the fandom in all of the places that she's been. There's always been some pushbacks and people that just don't vibe with her. Like I said, I don't really feel one way or the other, which I guess also isn't that great for someone they're trying to prop up as a host of a franchise. So I feel like they could bring her back though, because obviously they love her. She's kind of in the middle. Silky, I feel like if there's a Legends, Silky will be on it. A lot of people feel like Silky should have won this season. I'm one of them. And I just feel like her arc from absolutely fucking hated by the fandom to loved, and people think she was robbed, she should be crowned. It's just such a awesome storyline to see when there's so many of these ones we've been talking about where fan favorites become hated. It's nice to see the opposite can also happen, where someone the fandom treats like garbage, they can fall in love with later. So if there's a Legends, I think Silky would be on it. Vanity Milan, I feel like would be... They've already brought back Lemon, and they've brought back Cheryl from UK versus the World 1. So, there's some, Canada and UK copulation going on with these versus the World seasons. So I think Vanity has, so much personality. I think she annihilated the first episode of this season. And if the UK really wants to prop her up as, a star that they want to, push, I think they would cast her. Same with Victoria Scone, potentially being on, honestly, a US All-Stars. I would love that. I just worry that maybe they don't want their first AFAB queen to be, an All-Star from another country. I think they would probably want it to be someone from, a main season first. But the US fucking sucks at, gatekeeping, no drag kings until we do it, or no, AFAB queens until it's okay, well, then fucking do it, because we're bored. We need the representation yesterday. And then we have Isis, who I didn't know whether I would include her or not because she is a winner and I'm not including winners. But I feel like because she didn't win this season, I could include her. And I think if there is an all-winner season, she's someone that I would want cast. I would be very, very disappointed if she wasn't on. And I think that, obviously, Canada loves her. So, there's already rumors about Venus being on an All-Stars in the U.S. Why not Isis? Then there's Kendall Jenner, who obviously is really liked by Crave. And I don't think she necessarily had a bad run on this season. Going home first, I think she still had a good verse. Her looks were fine. But I think that she was someone who, a Lemon, they could bring back for, a UK versus the World or whatever. And she's professional. She's pretty well liked. And she would be a safe bet to cast. Our last thing we have is UK versus the World. I just clumped both seasons into one little thing. Gothy Kendall, I think we saw what we saw. Scarlet Envy, I feel like that was the end of her storyline, unless they really want her on an All-Stars in the US again, which I just don't see. I feel like that was her best season that she's done of all 3. And if I were her, I'd be like, okay, I'm good. I got what I wanted. I didn't win, but I got everything else I wanted. Let me end while I'm ahead. Then I have Kato Minaj, who I feel like really struggled with the English portion, not necessarily being able to speak it, but just trying to be funny in it and She struggled in the Snatch Game. She struggled in the commercial. She won the ball. Like, she had a great talent show. I just feel like she was so beloved on Holland and underperformed on the UK versus the World season she was on. And I feel like there's just other queens that they would want to bring back before Kata now, which is unfortunate. And then there's Arantxa Castilla Mancha, who has a podcast with Theresa May. And I think both of them are kind of doing what they should be doing. Like, they're both huge, incredible personalities who maybe aren't the best at Drag Race, but I would listen to a podcast of them if it were in English. But it's not. But I'm sure that the Spanish-speaking Drag Race fans are living for it. And that's what I give them a YouTube show. I would love a YouTube show with them. But for coming back, I feel like we saw what we saw for them on the season, and that was kind of like their shot, and I don't think either of them fully excelled. Jonbers Blonde, they love Jonbers Blonde. Michelle and Rue love Jonbers. But this was another, like, I feel like this was her moment to, like, show what she can do, and she didn't. So I just feel like that she kind of will get pushed aside. If maybe in a couple years they'll, bring her on, but I think now there's just other people they would bring back before Jonbers. Then we have some people from UK versus the World 1, Janie Jacquet, who was supposedly in contention for All-Stars 8, but turned it down. So there's obviously interest there. I would love to see her on again. She was so fun on UK versus the World. She did so well. So I think that, like, her going on an American All-Stars would be really, really fun. I would love to see that. I just don't know if maybe that was, like, the one shot that she had because it was right after her UK versus the World season. I hope that wasn't the case. Bag of Chips, huge star. If they have a spot for her that makes sense on a season, I feel like she will be back. Then we have LeGrand Dame, who was a huge star in UK versus the World 2. People loved her. She did so well. And I feel like she would do great on, like, a US All-Stars. And RuPaul seemed to really, really like her, and Michelle. So I could see her on an All-Stars in the US for sure. Like, give her, like, a year or two. Pangina is a little bit iffier only because she is a host again. And low-key, if I were her, I would be like, let me get my hosting gig and do that and not have to deal with, like, competing. But she was so beloved. If she wants to come on a US All-Stars, I feel like the invitation would be there. Same with Hannah Conda, who did so well in the season. RuPaul and Michelle love her. I feel like in a couple years, she'll get another call from whether it be Global All-Stars or like a US All-Star, something like that. I feel like she will be back. But the one who I think is a real slam dunk is Marina Summers. She's one of those people where, like, she didn't win the season, but she won the season. She was just so beloved by the fandom. And I feel like everyone wants her back on something. I think in All-Stars in the US, she'll get a call. I think she'll be the next Jimbo, to be honest with you, and I think that she will win it as well. So that is all of the All-Stars that we are going to talk about. I'm excited to see this final cast of All-Stars 10. If you're not following the spoilers, I won't spoil much, but there's definitely, like, 8 that are, like, for sure, but there might be, like, groups. The 8 that are, like, of 100% there, I'm so excited about. I love that group. So whether that's it or whether there's more, I'm excited. All-Stars 9, it's fine. I think it's better than 8. I think it's better than potentially 7. It's better than 5, and it's better than 1. So it's definitely, like, a middling season for me. It's not what I wanted, but I'm not fully upset with what we've gotten. So if you want to hear all my thoughts on All-Stars 9, make sure you're listening to The Rigged Recap with myself and with Kayla. That comes out every week. I know there's been a lot of people asking if I would do it for Global All-Stars or Canada versus the World. And to be honest, we're going to go on a little bit of a hiatus after this because Drag Duel will really be ramping up. We'll be finishing the season airing, and I got to get it fully ready to be aired. And I just need to focus on that. So after All-Stars 9, the Rigged Recap will be going on hold. I think I want to do it for UK, though. I love UK. So I would expect it back for Drag Race UK 6. And if not that, obviously we'll be back for Drag Race Season 17. So that is what's going on there. And guess what? For Global All-Stars, I have not watched most of those seasons. There are so many more podcasts of people who are way more well-positioned to talk about it than I am. And when those come out, I will highlight them all, and you can go listen to those instead. But I think that is all for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much, and I will catch you all in the next one.